One. I think we are live, Tim. Hello and welcome back. I hope you guys having a wonderful first week of April. I'm here with the team, Tim from Boston. Have you joined us before, Tim?
First time on YouTube. So
First time on
it's
YouTube. Oh
yep,
wow, fantastic, buddy.
yeah.
I'm glad I'm have you here. By the way, Tim is hardcore. Okay, comes to pour over. He is as good as get. I know he is very humble, but
Thank
comes
you.
to filter coffee, Tim is expert. I think I consider Tim as a expert at filter coffee
Thank
for
you.
sure. So here's what we're gonna do. Tim and I, we have pretty much the same setup. We have the Orea V3. Okay, I'm gonna be using my Orea. So this is the Amazon Orea, and Tim's gonna be using the real Orea. Okay, so he's gonna be using the genuine Orea. So but I think Amazon is like 1-to-1 copy, so should be okay. All right, that's also clear as well. And then we are using the T90 paper.
Yep.
Yep.
Conical
Team got
paper
it.
in a flat filter or a flat tube for there.
Exactly. Okay. And that. Okay, so which one you prefer, Tim? You like T90 or just regular Cleta 185 for flat?
Um, I T90 all the way.
Yeah.
I've talked to you about this before. I
Mhm.
think the wave papers are not great. They're a little slow for a lot of times, so you're kind of limited on how fine you
Mhm.
can grind, and they tend to have a papery taste unless you really rinse them out really well.
Yes, yep. You gotta wait a while too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
especially Kalita, I wash it. I wait about at least 5to 10 minutes.
Yep.
Get the degas that smell. So I
Yeah.
mean,
That
that's
papery
key.
taste.
Yep. And comes to water, we are Tim and I. We are both using the third wave water, the half pack. Okay, we're gonna
Yep.
be using the half pack of third wave water.
Yep.
Can you tell me about why you are using half pack instead of a full pack? What
Yeah.
is your reason?
So for me personally, obviously you should try both, right? You should try half strength, you should try full strength, and whichever one you like, you should do. For
Mhm.
me, I find half strength gives you a little bit more acidity. It's a little
Okay.
bit more balanced. You can kind of, especially if you're trying to take these really light roast coffees and extract a lot of coffee out of it. Um, with the full strength third wave water, you can get a brew that's sometimes a little heavy or maybe a little
Okay.
bitter and astringent. With half strength, if you really want to push your coffee, you can still get a really nice balance of acidity and sweetness. And I know people even go to a third strength and they'll even dilute it even more than half.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's all a personal taste thing.
Man, that's okay. So Tim has a great reason for that. For me, is cost savings. Okay, because the white water is not cheap. All right,
You're right.
because I know a lot of people has different reasons, but I like to last long, and I mean that's my reason. I know you guys have a different reason as well, but and also taste better than full strength. The
Yeah,
coffees mean I've been drinking.
yeah.
Comes to coffee, let's do peach from Good Brothers Coffee.
Peach.
Yep. So
Yeah.
so this is, I believe, a 25% co-fermentation coffee,
Yep.
and then the other one is what Ethiopia, right?
Yes. Washed
Dermosa.
Ethiopian.
Yeah, wash Ethiopia. So smells really good. Comes to
Smells delicious.
grinder. Yeah. Grinder. We're gonna be using. I'm gonna be using DF64V MP burrs. And what are you gonna be using, Tim?
I'm going to be using Ode Generation 1 with
Okay.
MP Burrs as well.
MP burrs. Okay. So we're gonna put, and then you're gonna be. I think I talked to you earlier. You're gonna slow feed your MP
Yes.
burrs, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell
So
us about slow feeding method?
yeah, definitely. So generally, when you have a grinder that is trying to operate as fast as possible, aka grind your beans as fast as possible, there's a chance that grounds can kind of get stuck in either the exit chute, depending on what grinder you have, or maybe inside the burrs. And a lot of times that can lead to grounds getting kind of reground on the very outside of the burrs, and that tends to shatter them more. And generally, if you have a lot of beans going into your burrs at once, there are going to be a lot of collisions between the beans, and that's going to kind of shred the beans a little bit more and give you a lot of those little micro fines. Um, and just more fines in general as well. And if you're making espresso, fines are a great thing, but a lot of times for filter, you want to kind of push clarity, and fines are they have a tendency to make the flavor of your brew muddy. And so with slow feeding, you can kind of minimize the amount of fines and make your grind size a little bit more uniform, which give you a little bit of a clearer brew.
Okay, and for me, since I'm using DF64V, has a variable RPM control. I'm gonna go all the way down to 600 RPM. So that's what I'm
Right.
gonna do. And so we have slow feeding versus low RPM, and even though we are using the exact same brewing method,
Yep.
but comes to Tim and I, we have different techniques as well, but different humidity. Tim's in Boston versus I'm in Arizona, extremely dry place. It's not the same, but I'm trying to match as much as I can. You know what? Let's brew some coffee.
Are you
All right.
doing 13 grams?
Let's do 13 gram.
13 grams. Yeah.
Water temp. Least something we can control. Water temp. Which water temp are you gonna go with?
Generally for that's a coffee like this, I would do about 92.
Okay. So let's go 92 Celsius.
Ballpark your
Yeah.
grind size for me. How about how coarse, fine, medium? Where are you at?
I'm trying to brew the grind size that give me like around 3 minute brew time.
Okay.
So, well, here's the thing about the grind size, right? We don't, everybody say medium fine, medium coarse, but I'm trying to go by the time. What are you looking for, your time wise?
Yeah, generally I like to stay within that 3 to 330
330.
minute range. Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, depending on the coffee, some of them you really want that 5 to 6
Yeah,
minute brew. It's really
exactly.
nice. Yeah.
What about the ratio? You're gonna do 1 to 50, 1 to 16?
Usually I do about 16.7.
Okay. 1 to 16?
Yeah, or 1 to 17. For this coffee, probably 1 to 16.
Okay, so we're 1 to 16 on that on my grinder, my scale.
Right, you have the fellow scale, which can do the
I got the
ratio.
fellow O scale. I'm sorry, a fellow tally, so I can control the. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, these grounds smell great. They absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Question: what about the espresso version of third wave? Again, espresso version is no real different in terms of how you should evaluate it. You should try full strength third wave espresso, and if you don't like it, try reducing the half or try reducing it 75%, and just see what you like.
I think that's a great answer, Tim. All right, there we go. I'm gonna start brewing mine.
All right, I'm currently negotiating the filter there, which is definitely a little bit tricky at times. I'm sure you know.
You do WDT before your filter coffee?
You mean before you start pouring?
Exactly.
I don't usually. I don't see very many clumps in the grinds, and
Okay.
I'll kind of give it a shake like this, which is usually enough to break up all those little grinds. All right. So I've just finished wetting my paper. So yeah, I mean, just looking visually, you can see we have a little bit of a difference here. I do like to negotiate my papers pretty hard, I guess,
Yep.
because I feel like if you're going to negotiate, you might as well
Do all the way.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like give and take. Okay, whatever the paper, I try not to force it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So.
And do you like using mellow drip?
I don't actually have a mellow drip. Instead, if I do want to do that on my Orea, I'll use the Pulsar shower screen.
Okay.
It tends to fit really nice on top. So if you want to use your mellow drip, I'll use my equivalent.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's have some fun with it.
Sure. 50-gram bloom or?
Yeah, 50-gram bloom. And I like to give it a little stir. How long you like to wait, Tim?
Usually around maybe 45 seconds on a bloom,
Okay.
usually. Yeah. Man, this coffee smells amazing. It really does.
Let's wait till 45 seconds. All right. And the second pour, I like to usually go up about 125. How about you?
Okay, yeah, so add a 75-gram pour there.
Mhm. I mean, doing the like mellow drip, I know Tim's using the pulsar, lower the agitation. Okay,
Yeah.
so I feel like give you that more cleaner cup.
I mean, you can definitely see on just kind of the cross
Mhm.
section here, you can see that distinct layer of
Yep.
water above. So what are you pouring to now?
Go all the way up to 200.
200.
Yeah,
13 to 200.
209. Yeah,
13 to 210. Okay.
there we go. And then in the end, I like to just do another quick swirl. It's gonna be like my feeling is around like 230 for my cup.
Okay. Give it a little swirl there. Yeah, it looks like I ground maybe a little bit coarse or a little bit finer than you. But I
So
should be finishing.
yeah, I'm at around like 213.
And you're already finished. Okay.
Yep.
I'm probably gonna end up around 245 to
Mhm.
3. But this is actually draining. This is actually draining pretty quick. Maybe I'll.
How's that smell?
That smells great. I love that peachy aroma. You can get a little
Yeah.
bit of that. I definitely smell the kind of the washed Ethiopian as well. It's very a little bit earthy. It's a little floral. It's really nice.
And then let's give it a try. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, my brew is finishing up right at about 3 minutes there.
3 minutes. Yeah, because I'm at around like 210 or so. Again, I really enjoy fast brew. Yeah, I do really enjoy fast brew there. Sometimes
Wow, this cup smells amazing.
sometimes I brew like 330. You're able to extract more, but same time, it's like, give me that little bitter taste.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean that slight kind of bitterness that you can get sometimes is why I kind of started playing with my water chemistry because now I
Mhm.
do a lot of kind of custom water, making my own mixes. Um, because especially for if you're really sensitive to bitterness, or maybe if you're really sensitive to a specific flavor, a lot of times softer water or maybe a lower buffer water can kind of help tame
Okay.
that flavor. And so I think that's why a lot of people are now recommending a third strength third strength third wave water, because that can really take back that bitterness and kind of give you a lot more acidity, which a lot of people are like nowadays.
I mean, in general, right? In general, the buffer is muted the brightness. Okay, and they obviously the calcium that bring out the brightness.
Hmm.
And then in the in between is obviously the salt, magnesium. So
Right.
again, you have to play with it. Yeah, sure, Tim. Very clean.
Mm, that's delicious.
I mean, I get a lot of tropical tasting notes instead of peach right now.
Really.
Yeah, peach is there, but I feel like I'm getting more than a peach.
Yeah, I think I primarily taste peach in terms of
Yep.
the fruit, but I get a lot of kind of stone fruit. I get clementine, kind of
Hmm.
like a tangerine peel there. Um,
Again, I mean, this is not like typical, dark roast coffee, right? It's not a
Absolutely not.
typical like if someone thinks that if someone envision coffee, like coffee candy, okay, this is not. This is
Mhm.
not coffee candy type. This is more like very tea-like,
No, absolutely. It's very light, um,
very light.
very delicate flavors throughout. Um, I think comparing to one of Brent's previous releases, the strawberry
Hmm.
co-ferment, which is very, very strawberry forward, right? I mean, you could give it to anyone and they would probably taste some form of red fruit. Uh, I find this peach release is a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more kind of refined and
Yep.
elegant. And I think this is definitely with a lot of people nowadays in coffee are kind of not a fan of this big co-ferment movement. This type of blend where you've got majority a very classic coffee like washed
Yep.
Ethiopian, and you've got a very small minority of co-ferment, it leads to a balance that I think is more palatable to a lot of people who have been in specialty coffee since before co-ferments were a thing.
Okay, so why? I mean, let me ask you why you're gravitate to filter over espresso.
Yeah. So I started with filter and then I went into espresso as well. And I was doing both for a time. Um, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. I found myself drinking filter more than espresso.
Okay.
I enjoy kind of those delicate flavors a little bit
Mhm.
more. I think espresso is great, but I think I could only really drink so much espresso during the day
Okay.
before my taste buds were kind of like chill out, um, and usually I just find myself gravitating back to filter. I do like the larger beverage size, and I do like primarily I'm drinking these very light coffees, very light roast. Kind of like I've got H&S Ultralight Roast here, and I've got plenty of Say as well. And so these types of coffees, I find I enjoy the profile more on filter than espresso. But obviously, there's lots of people who feel the opposite, and no one is right or wrong.
But I think I felt like filter coffee is a lot more forgiving to dial in because you
Yeah,
figure, I mean, espresso you only have what 30 seconds to dial the coffee in, right?
yeah,
I mean that it's not a lot of time to dial in. Okay, 30 seconds. You don't have a lot of room to make a mistake there. You gotta dial it in just right. With the
yeah,
filter coffee, you are talking about 2.5 minutes all the way up to 5 or 6 minutes.
yeah. I agree. I think filter is definitely more forgiving, but I think you can kind of you can put as much kind of effort into really perfecting and optimizing your filter as you can with espresso. They're both, in my view, nowadays they're both equally kind of deep topics
Hmm.
that you can dive into, and we're learning more and more about filter every day, and we're learning more and more about espresso theory every day, and I think it's really great.
If someone's starting to filter coffee today, what kind of equipment do you recommend?
Um, I'm a big proponent of V60. I think
Yeah.
if you get V60 and again the Cafec T90 papers, I think you are going to be ahead of a lot of people in terms of gear.
Okay.
Because I like you have gone through numerous drippers and
Mhm.
numerous paper filters and different brands of filters, and this is where I've landed. Right, after trying all this stuff, I've landed on plastic O1 V60
Mhm.
and the Cafec T90. I think those are probably the most forgiving setup you can go to. Obviously, the T90 is probably one of the most forgiving papers out there in terms of how many fines you can
Yep.
basically clog it with, and it still doesn't change its filter. It's actually filtering rate,
Okay.
and I think that's a really helpful thing for a lot of beginners. A lot of times, if you don't really know what you're doing with pouring, or if you're using maybe not a gooseneck or a gooseneck that pours too fast. A lot of times you can really migrate those fines and really push them into the paper, which ends up giving you a stalled brew, kind of like 5 to 6 minute,
Mhm.
7 minute brew where it really shouldn't be. Or if you're using a kind of a cheaper grinder that produces a lot of fines, you want a paper that can kind of hold up to that. And you don't want the paper getting in your way when you already have other things that may be getting in your way.
Okay, having said that, we talk about grinder. Is obviously grinder does matter. Okay, I feel like to grind, but with a proper technique with water chemistry, perhaps I feel like you can overcome that.
Yeah, yeah, you absolutely don't need a multi-hundred dollar, $1,000 plus grinder just to make good coffee, right? Um, I think I started on a hand grinder, and I think a lot of people start on hand grinders. And nowadays, there are hand grinders, below $100 that can give you really, really good results. Um, and I think, yeah, like you really don't need something. You don't even need an ode, right? Or you don't. If you get an ode, you don't need to upgrade the Burrs to MP, right? You don't need to do that. A lot of times, I recommend to people in my area about getting
Mhm.
into coffee. Um, I recommend that you fix your coffee first. So you should prioritize getting good coffee. Obviously, if you start with a better raw material, you're going to have a much better end result. And the second thing is get your water in order. And I always say start with third wave and go from there. Third wave is nice because you get that freedom to dilute to however you want. And then if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, like I have, you can go ahead and buy a bunch of minerals and a very accurate scale there, and just start
Yeah.
weighing it out yourself. Um, but you're right that at the end of the day, if you have good coffee and you have really good water, everything else can be just reasonably good, and you'll get a very good brew.
Okay. By the way, so people are you may overwhelmed by what Tim is talking about right now. Okay, I know Richard mentioned about will this be part of the
Mhm.
final exam? No, not at
No,
all.
of
Okay,
course not.
but again, I mean, Tim is really in. He's all in. Okay, people like Tim. He loves filter coffee. He's all in. But if you're brand new to the pour over coffee, don't worry, guys. Okay, only thing you need is like Tim say, get yourself V60.
Hmm.
Okay, you don't need to get a T90 paper either. Okay, just get yourself just V60 paper. Okay,
Sure.
start get used to it. Okay, just used to making coffee. Gooseneck kettle, same thing. You don't have to buy the fancy gooseneck kettle. Just go to Amazon. Just get a cheap gooseneck kettle for like 10-15 bucks.
Yep.
All right, just get it going. Just make yourself coffee. Okay,
Right.
do not get overwhelmed. And so that's great starting point. But at some point, you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. All right.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. Guess what? You're gonna become like Tim
Well,
because there's no ends. Okay. So again, if you are thinking about doing it, go do it. Comes to cost to enter is very inexpensive. Comes to coffee as your hobby. Ten
agreed.
bucks. Yeah, $10 for V60. Another $10 for the paper. Hand grinder. What? 75 to 100
Yeah.
bucks for a decent hand grinder. Okay. And people made things, hey, what is a decent hand grinder? What do you think? What is decent hand grinder for you under 100?
Under 100. I think you can definitely jump into something like a Easy Espresso
Okay.
Q2. I know
Okay.
those you can often find relatively cheap. Or even if it's just something like an X Pro, even though it's
Okay.
maybe more skewed towards espresso, you can definitely use it for pour over. And I
Yeah.
encourage people, especially if you're first getting into the hobby, to go and look for a secondhand hand
Mhm.
grinder. Um, Hand grinders, burrs in general, do not deteriorate. I mean, you really need to be running thousands of pounds of coffee through burrs for them to start deteriorating. Um, and so, if you don't have a hiccup about buying used gear, I highly suggest you go and get a secondhand hand grinder, because oftentimes you can find them for close to half the price, and then you can get
Exactly.
something really nice without having to kind of splurge.
Okay. So this is another reason you want to buy second hand grinder. You don't have to season the hand grinder either. Okay. The seasoning is very important.
Yep.
Because whatever is brand new burrs give you a lot more fines than when grinder is a seasoned. So which means brew is not going to be consistent in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why. Because of most grinder secondhand, most times they use very gently. Okay, very
Yeah.
gentle. So and as long as you go to like reputable websites like homebrewstuff.com
Hmm.
is also they're huge, big on coffee community as well.
Yep.
There's like quite a different places. Don't buy from Craigslist. Okay, that's hit and miss from Craigslist. But homebrew stuff, you have to pay a little bit more. You have to pay premium for that, but still cheaper than buying a brand new. Okay,
Absolutely.
by the way, the DK is asking what number. Okay, so DK, I'm using the DF64V. Set it at number 90. Okay, I set a number 90 clicks on my DF64V. Oh, what about your? Oh, what number are you using on your MP?
This is calibrated with Fellow's instructions, which is
Yep.
5 rotations off of
Okay.
chirp, and this is on a 5.
Okay. By the way, and we have someone mentioned about the C3. The timer C3 is also under $100 as
Yep.
well. C3, C2. Okay, older model, but I mean they are still good. C3 is the latest one, so they are really good. So easy press or timer.
Yeah.
They're pretty good, reputable brand name. And obviously they got gnome cores out there, and they got quite a few. But
Yeah.
even like $45 to $50 grinder nowadays, they are all decent.
They're great.
Uh,
Yeah.
they're all
Yeah, I
decent.
think you're absolutely right. I don't think you can go wrong with Easy Presso or Time More hand
Mm.
grinders. They're pretty much all good, and you can kind of change a little bit about your technique and compensate for any shortcomings they might
Yep.
have.
Hold on a second. I got a Lil. I hope I'm saying it right. IZ. Okay, shut out. He said, "Can you shut me out? Your words hurt me a lot." Come on. My words means nothing, okay? But yeah,
Oh, it's
I'd
not
be
true.
happy to. I'd be happy to shout out to you. Okay, hold on a second. George asked me about the. Have you ever used a cup Timo?
I have not. I have
Okay.
not. I think it's a very interesting brewer in concept. I think it's very novel, but as for whether it's novel just for the sake of being novel, I don't know because I haven't used one. But you certainly have one, and you can kind of give a little bit more.
Here's the thing about the cup Timo. This is very unique brewer. Okay. But again, there's hundreds different brewers out there, so this is one of them as well. Really fun to use, innovative, and this coffee brew fantastic coffee. But I feel like every brewer makes fantastic coffee. I mean, at this point, what do you like, right? What kind of
Yeah,
brewer, what kind of style you prefer? Personally, I'm a big fan of flat bottom paper myself, the flat bottom paper myself, brewer myself as well. But I know people love V60 cone shape.
yep,
If you want to do both origami, you can do flat and cone shape. So if you want to
yep.
just get one of them, okay. Origami as well. So yeah, so you have a lot of options. Hold on. We have someone asking me about the my Eureka Mignon single dose for filter, 65 millimeter flat burr.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what? It's fine.
it's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is an espresso focused burr, but it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
I would suggest slow feeding. I think most grinders, if you're grinding for filter, it will benefit from slow feeding. You don't really want to jam all the beans and the burrs at once.
No.
Obviously, there's the Lance Hedrick video about slow feeding. If anyone is interested in the topic and wants to know about why it works a little bit deeper. Same with seasoning. I saw somebody ask about the mechanic behind seasoning. Um, as far as I'm concerned, it's mainly about kind of dulling the very sharp edges of the burr that come from the factory. You can kind of run a bunch of coffee through them, and it kind of softens up some of those really harsh edges and gives you the burr ends up performing like it will perform in maybe a couple months once you've ground a couple 100 pounds through it. And so you're really just trying to get that. It's basically like a break-in period where you got to run a bunch of coffee, let the burr kind of stabilize on its kind of long-term state, and then you can use it.
Hey, so
Again, yeah.
how many pounds of coffee you went through with your MP burrs on your oat?
Myself, probably around 5 to 10 by now. I haven't had them
Okay.
for very long, but before they've been used for maybe 20 to 30 pounds. I ballpark. So
So
definitely
you gotta
seasoned.
use.
Yes.
Okay, so you gotta use the oat. Again, if you're looking for like used, just the filter coffee, I really like the oat, fella oat with the MP burrs. They're fantastic. Okay, and just even Gen 2,
Hmm.
their birds are pretty nice as well. I mean, just
Hmm.
without upgrading to MP birds. The thing
Right.
about the why? Okay, think about the birds, especially 64 millimeter. I mean, MP give you that nice clearly. I mean, if you don't like nice clearly, MP is not for you.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you might go with maybe like lobster with a cast.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, but before you invest money on birds, try different birds before. I mean, it's got to be somebody, your friends or family members.
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
theirs
I mean,
first.
I think it's great. I mean, you can obviously just go to cafes and you might, if you find really nice kind of roaster cafes
Mhm.
or multi-roaster cafes that are importing multiple different roasters coffee in your city or in your area, then go there. You can definitely find uh like-minded people who maybe are deeper in the hobby and maybe love to. I mean, I love sharing my hobby with people. I love
Mhm.
answering people's questions, and a lot of people feel the same. So
Oh,
I
by the
think you're
way,
absolutely
so
right.
team is hosting every Sunday at George Howe
Actually,
California.
it's actually here. Yeah.
Oh, your house now.
Hmm. Yep. So
Okay.
yeah, I host cuppings here.
Okay.
I have a really nice space for kind of how it's set up. It lends itself very well to cupping.
So is that
And so
every
yeah,
Sunday?
yes, every Sunday.
Every Sunday. If you're in the Boston area,
Yeah.
and then make sure to
Yeah.
reach out to Tim. Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How people can find you on
Um,
Instagram?
yeah. I primarily message about my cuppings through my Instagram,
Okay.
which happens to be the same username as my YouTube username as well.
What is the
Um,
team?
Tim.sh13. Yeah.
Okay, Tim.ashY. I'm gonna put his Tim's link on my Instagram, my
Thank
description.
you.
So make sure to check it out.
Yeah.
Is that people have to pay for that, or is that a free session?
No, it's free. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
it's a free session. Okay.
yep.
If you're in the Boston area, so obviously they have to make a reservation.
Yeah, I prefer that now.
Sure.
Before it was kind of more open. But now that I've got kind of more people who are coming, it's definitely more of a please reach out before you come. Yeah.
Is that this weekend booked, or do you have any empty spot?
So I don't actually cap it.
Okay.
I would
Oh,
only
you don't
cap
cap it.
No, I would only cap it if it gets to a point where I'm starting to think, hey, maybe this will be
Okay.
too troublesome to run. Um, but yeah, otherwise it's open.
Okay. So, what's the coffee gonna offer this weekend?
So with my cuppings, a big part of it is I want people to bring coffee.
Okay.
So I think cupping is great if say if it was only my coffee and you would just come and you would just try my coffee. I think that's great. But you don't know what my coffee tasted like before. So
Sure.
I encourage people to bring coffee from their home. Maybe coffee
Okay.
that, let's say you have a nice coffee like this, or you have a nice coffee, this coffee's got notes of mango, watermelon, lemon drop.
Mhm.
Let's say you bought this coffee and you're brewing it at home and you get none of the flavors, you get none of those bag notes. I encourage people to bring coffee like that, maybe coffee that they're having an issue brewing,
Mhm.
or maybe coffee that they don't really quite understand, or maybe they don't understand why they're getting a certain flavor. And I encourage them to bring it here and try it in cupping, which is a fairly low bias brewing method, right? There's no pouring structure, there's no recipe, there's no set grind size. It's
Yep.
really just everything's ground at the same,
Yep.
everything's same water temperature, and everything's the same ratio. And through that, you can kind of, first off, you can get other people's opinions on your troublesome coffee, and you can try it in an environment where everything is constant. All the variables are set because
Mhm.
I've set them, and you can kind of compare it against different coffees and hear what other people think about your coffees. And so that's the main thing. I obviously I like to cup maybe 3 to 4 of my coffees as well, so that people can kind of try some other stuff. But other than that, I really hope I bank on people bringing their own.
Oh wow, that sounds wonderful, Tim. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
Again, if you're in Boston area, make sure to reach out to Tim. I'm gonna put the Tim's Instagram page on my description section, so make sure to reach out and try Tim's cupping session. Hey, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Tim.
yeah.
And I'm gonna
Thank you
talk
for
to you
having
next
me.
time. Okay. All right. See you later.
Perfect. Thank you.
So there's the Tim from Boston. Again, if you're in Boston area, make sure to reach out to Tim. I'm gonna put the Tim's Instagram page that you can reach out, join his cupping session. Again, they are free of charge to the public, so you're gonna have some fun with it. Anyway, I'm gonna see you guys next time.